Dear students, how are you all? I hope all of you are fine at home. Home, stay safe and stay healthy. Today in this session, we are going to learn about Animal Kingdom. Before going to the chapter, we can have a quick summary of the last 3 chapters. In 11th biology, our first unit is related to diversity in the living world. In that 4 chapters are there. Chapter 1, the living world. Second chapter, biological classification. And chapter 3, plant kingdom. And chapter 4, animal kingdom, which we are going to learn now. In the first chapter, we learned about what is living, diversity in the living world, taxonomic categories, and taxonomical aids. Second chapter was mainly dealt with Archaeopteryx classification. In that, in detail, we discussed about kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia, and even we described about viruses, viroids, and lichens, which are not included in any of the kingdom. The third chapter was totally related to plant kingdom in detail. In that, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, and plant life cycles and alternation of generations, haplondic, diplondic, haplodiplondic were explained in detail. As we discussed in the first chapter, the number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. We should remember here that as we explore, as we discover new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. The branch of science which deals with classification is called taxonomy. According to taxonomic category, species is the lowest category and kingdom is the highest category in the taxonomic hierarchy. All animals belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called kingdom Animalia in the classification system of animals. So let's start our 4th chapter, Animal Kingdom. In that we are going to learn about mainly 2 topics: basics of classification and classification of animals. Before starting the chapter, some of the important points can be discussed. First of all, many times we discuss regarding classification, and you know that the branch of science which deals with study of classification is known as taxonomy. When we are defining it, you have to understand taxonomy is the branch of science which deals with the study of nomenclature, classification, and principles of classification. Taxonomy word was given by whom? Yeah, it's correct. Actually, it's given by A.P.D. Candolle. So, taxonomy word was given by or coined by Candolle, and you know it is originated from 2 words, taxis and nomos. Taxis word means arrangement, nomos means law. So from this we have to understand taxonomy means we are arranging the organisms according to some law. And you know who is known as father of zoology, or who is known as father of ancient taxonomy? That's Aristotle. Aristotle is known as the father of zoology. What do you mean by zoology? Zoology word means study of animals. It is also originated from 2 words, zoos and logos. Zoos means animals, logos means study. And the book written by Aristotle, that is Historia Animalium, Anima and Inima. Anima, those animals which don't have red blood or in which RBC are absent in invertebrates like sponges, Cnidaria, Mollusca, Arthropoda, Echinodermata. Eneima, the second group, these animals have red blood. This group includes all vertebrates and it has been further divided into two subgroups. Before going to subgroups, we can summarize once again regarding Eneima and Aneima. So according to the presence or absence of red blood or RBC, Aristotle in his book Historia Animalia classified the animals into two groups and they are known as Aneima and Eneima. Mainly invertebrates are coming under Aneima and vertebrates are coming under Eneima. So we are seeing that this Eneima is again divided into two subgroups. They are Vivipara and Ovipara. These terminologies already you learned in lower classes also. Viviparous organism, Oviparous organism, like that. Vivipara means it includes animals which give birth to young ones. Example, mammals. Ovipara means it includes animals which lay eggs. Example, pisces. Pisces means fishes. Amphibians, in which frogs coming. Reptiles. Aves. Aves means birds, etc. In animal kingdom, when we are going to learn in detail, you can understand that there are important phyla. There are 12 important phyla are there. Phyla word is the plural of phylum. So they are starting from Protozoa. It includes in kingdom Protista. That is according to R.H. Whitaker's classification, we already completed the chapter. That is kingdom Protista, Monera, fungi, plantae and Animalia. And in that kingdom Protista, the totally protozoa are included. Protozoa word means first formed animals. In that mainly coming amoeba, paramecium, etc. And the next phylum is Porifera. And commonly they are known as sponges. Next is Coelenterata, also known as Cnidaria. In that hydra, jellyfish, etc. coming. Ctenophora, the minor phylum. In that the example we can consider Pleurobrachia. Platyhelminthes, flatworms. Example tapeworm. Nemathelminthes, yeah, Aschelminthes. Example roundworm or Ascaris. Annelida, earthworm, leech, etc. are coming as examples. Arthropoda, the largest phylum of animal kingdom. In that all insects are coming, scorpion, fly, etc. Mollusca, snail, pila, octopus, etc. Echinodermata, starfishes, Hemichordata, Balanoglossus, Chordata, fish, snake, birds, monkey, etc. So there are total 12 phyla we have to learn in this kingdom, Animalia. And before going to the phylum in detail, we have to understand how they are divided and which are the basis of classification for dividing them in different phyla. So for that, we have to start the chapter and don't worry about these names, the terminologies, because we are going to learn some tricks to remember the name of phyla and remember the name of examples. So don't worry about that. So let's start the chapter, that is chapter 4, Animal Kingdom. So chapter 4, Animal Kingdom. When you look around, you will observe different animals with different structures and forms. So whatever organisms we are seeing around us, we can see that all the animals are not having the same structure. They are not having same form. For example, you are seeing cat, we are seeing dog, even we are seeing cow. So can you see that all of them are looking like same? Not at all. Dogs are looking same. Cats are having their own structure and form. Other organisms are having their own structure and form. So when we are looking like this, we can see that all the organisms are having different structure and form. As over 1 million species of animals have been described till now. Till now, how many organisms are described that we discussed earlier? What was the number? 1.7 to 1.8 million species. So then we that time discussed again that so it's not so easy to study individual organism. So there was a need of classification. So these million species of organisms have been described till now. The need for classification becomes all the more important. The classification also helps in assigning a systematic position to newly described species. So classification is very important. Because of classification only, we can assign a systematic position to newly described species. Systematic position, that means it is doing or giving a position according to some rules, according to some easily observable characteristics. Systema word means you have to understand systematic arrangement. So we are keeping an organism which one is newly described in its particular position based on some easily observable characters and according to some rules. If the organism find out is of plants, then we have to follow the rules according to ICBN. And if it is of an organism of animal, then we have to follow the rules of ICZN. What do you mean by ICBN and ICZN? ICBN means International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, and ICZN, International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. So now in this chapter mainly we are going to deal with animals only there. So when we have to classify this animal kingdom or animals, we have to follow some basis. Otherwise, on the basis of some points, we are classifying animals. So which are the basis of classification that we have to understand? In spite of differences in structure and form of different animals, there are fundamental features common to various individuals in relation to the arrangement of cells, body symmetry, nature of coelom, patterns of digestive, circulatory or reproductive systems. These features are used as the basis of animal classification and some of them are discussed here. So what we are understanding from this paragraph? First of all, we told that in an introductory paragraph, there are differences in the structure and form of animals. But here now we are saying that even though they are having differences in the structure and form, but some fundamental features are common to various individuals. And that is in relation to the arrangement of cells, their body symmetry, the nature of coelom, patterns of digestive, circulatory or reproductive system. And mainly these features are used as a basis of animal classification and some of them are discussed here. So we have to learn the basis of classification. So many points are coming there. First we are going to learn about levels of organization. Though all members of Animalia are multicellular. Multicellular word means what? You have to understand that. Even you know that from lower classes you are learning the difference between unicellular, multicellular. And you know the meaning of the terminologies. Unicellular means uni, single, cellular means cell. The organisms which is made up of one cell or single cell is known as unicellular. And in the same case, multicellular means multi means many, cellular means cell, and the organism which is made up of more than one cell. So from this sentence, we have to understand that all members of Animalia are multicellular. That means they are made up of more than one cell. All of them do not exhibit the same pattern of organization of cells. As we discussed regarding 12 phyla in the kingdom Animalia. In that first one is Protozoa, first formed animals. They are already kept in the kingdoms of phylum Protista as per Arachvitaker's classification. And we will be starting from phylum Porifera until Chordates. We have to see this level of organization, how it varies there. So first of all, for example, in sponges, the cells are arranged as loose cell aggregates. We are not telling that they are arranged as a group of tissues, because here we are using the terminology cell aggregates, only the aggregation of cells, and that also loose cell aggregates. So that is, they exhibit cellular level of organization. Some division of labor or activities occur among the cells. So among the cells, only the division of labor is occurring. So they have not developed as tissues because they are having only loose cell aggregate arrangement. So here in the first phylum, we have to understand phylum Porifera, otherwise in sponges, the level of organization is cellular level of organization. The question can be asked, even Porifera or sponges are multicellular, the level of organization is cellular. Why? So you have to answer that because they are having the cell arrangement as loose cell aggregates and the division of labor occur among the cells only there. So like that you have to understand the point. Now next we are coming to that in coelenterate. The arrangement of cell is more complex as compared to Porifera. The arrangement of cell is more complex in the case of coelenterates, also known as cnidarians. Here the cells performing the same function are arranged into tissues. Hence it is called tissue level of organization. In the case of Porifera, we saw that there are loose cell aggregates and the division is occurring among the cells only there. But when we are coming to the next phylum, that is phylum Coelenterata, so there the same function performing cells are arranged in such a way that they are forming as tissues. And hence the level of organization of coelenterate is known as tissue level of organization. And when we go ahead, a still higher level of organization, that is organ level, is exhibited by members of Platyhelminthes and other higher phyla where tissues are grouped together to form organs, each specialized for a particular function. So we can see here the evolution, the change, because when we start from Porifera, we saw that there it was of cellular level of organization. When coming to coelenterates, again we saw that same function performing cells aggregate to form tissues and they were having tissue level of organization. And when going ahead, we can see that these tissues, what happened? The organ level is seen there. A still higher level of organization, that is the organ level, is exhibited by members of Platyhelminthes and other higher phyla where tissues are grouped together to form organs and each organ specialized for a particular function. As you know that we are also having different organs for different function. Eye is having the function of vision, ear for hearing, nose for smelling. So like that each and every organ is having a particular function. And in animals like next to phyla, when we are seeing that's of annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms and chordates, organs have associated to form functional systems. Each system concerned with a specific physiological function. And this pattern is called organ system level of organization. So when we are seeing about annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms and chordates, what happen here? Still higher level of organization we can see, that is organs have associated to form functional systems. So here it's coming organ system. So we can see the change. First we discussed in the Porifera, that was regarding the cellular level of organization. Still higher phyla, that was in the case of coelenterate, we saw that it was of tissue level. Then coming to the next phylum or next level, we saw that it was of organ level. And then coming to the next onwards, still higher phyla, we can see that the system is coming, that is organ system level of organization. Organ systems in different groups of animals exhibit various patterns of complexities. For example, the digestive system in Platyhelminthes has only a single opening to the outside of the body that serves as both mouth and anus, and hence it is called incomplete. So when we are going to discuss this topic, we have to understand some of the points in detail. So till now, once again, we can have a quick summary of the topic level of organization. That is the basis of classification, first point. So from this we have understood that from starting Porifera, there is a level of organization, that is cellular level. In coelenterate, it is of tissue level. And when coming to Platyhelminthes and other phyla, there we saw that still higher level, that is organ level. And when coming to animals like annelids to chordates, we saw that it's coming in the highest level, that is organ system level of organization. So now in this organ system, many organ systems are there, you know that. Because there are many systems for performing metabolic activities in our body of any of the organism, it is there. Examples are there: respiratory system, excretory system, reproductive system, digestive system. So in each system, many organs are associated. For example, when we are saying about digestive system itself, it's starting from mouth and ends in the anus. So there are many organs are connected: mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus, etc. So each organ here associating, working together and forming a system. So organ system in different groups of animals exhibit various patterns of complexities. For example, the digestive system in Platyhelminthes, the phylum, is commonly known as flatworms, has only a single opening to the outside of the body that serves as both mouth and anus, and is hence called incomplete. So here, in the case of Platyhelminthes, phylum Platyhelminthes, regarding digestive system, when we are saying, we have to use the terminology that is incomplete. So why it is known as incomplete digestive system? So that we have to understand that in Platyhelminthes, the digestive system is incomplete, means it has only a single opening to the outside of the body that serves as both mouth and anus, and is hence called incomplete digestive system. So when the question is asking about incomplete digestive system, you have to remember the definition and the example is of Platyhelminthes. And a complete digestive system has two openings, that is mouth and anus. Similarly, the circulatory system may be of two types. But before going to this circulatory system, we have to understand that when we are discussing regarding this body plan, so there is cell aggregation type is in the case of sponges. Then we can call that the digestive system incomplete, we told. Connected to that, one word is coming, blind sac type. Blind sac type means animals in which digestive system is incomplete. It has only a single opening to the outside of the body that serves as both mouth and anus. Here, the example is Coelenterate to Platyhelminthes. And we discussed here regarding the complete digestive system, that means it has two openings, mouth and anus, and it has another word, that is tube within tube type, found in those animals having the complete digestive tract with the separate openings, mouth and anus. And the example, Nemathelminthes to chordates. So these are the two terminologies you have to understand connected to body plan of the animals, and that is a particular system, especially of digestive system. So digestive system is of two types, that is complete digestive system and incomplete digestive system. Complete digestive system means the organism which is having both mouth and anus separate, and incomplete digestive system means it has only one opening, serves as both mouth and anus in the case of Platyhelminthes. And the same we have discussed here again as a body plan, in that we have seen that blind sac type and tube within tube type. So these terminologies you have to remember. If the question is asking, please remember the examples also and the terminologies also. Similarly, the circulatory system may be of two types, open type and closed type. Open type, in which the blood is pumped out of the heart and the cells and tissues are directly bathed in it. And closed type, in which the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters, that is arteries, veins and capillaries. So when we discuss regarding circulatory system also, we have to understand that there are also two types are there, that is open type of circulatory system is there and closed type of circulatory system is there. In open type of circulatory system, in which the blood remains filled in tissue spaces due to the absence of blood capillaries. For example, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, hemichordates, and some lower chordates like tunicates. And in the closed type, in which the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters, that is arteries, veins, and blood capillaries. So when we are discussing regarding level of organization, we have learned many topics, many points we discussed here. Even we told that all members of Animalia are multicellular, but all of them are not exhibiting the same pattern of organization of cells. We can have a quick summary of the same. In the case of sponges, which level of organization? It is of cellular level. The reason is that they are having loose cell aggregates and the division of labor is performed among cells only. And next to phylum, we saw that it is in the case of coelentrates, it's of tissue level of organization. And when we discussed regarding still higher level of organization, we saw that there is of organ level of organization, that is of Platyhelminthes and other higher phyla. And when it came to annelids to chordates, we saw that the highest level of organization is coming, that is of organ system level of organization. And even in the system level of organization, we saw that there are some points we discussed in detail. One is regarding the digestive system and the other is regarding the circulatory system. And regarding digestive system, we told that it's of two types: complete digestive system and the incomplete digestive system. If they are having two openings, mouth and anus separate, so it is known as complete digestive system. And if only one opening serves as both mouth and anus, then it is known as incomplete digestive system. And in the case of circulatory system also, we discussed that two types are there: open type of circulatory system and closed type. In open type, you know that there is blood pumped out of the heart and the cells and tissues are directly bathed in it. And the closed type, in which the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters, for example, arteries, veins, and capillaries. So here the first point of basis of classification is completed. We can have a quick summary of the same. Basis of classification in that level of body organization. So we can see here protoplasmic level, cellular level, tissue level, organ level, and organ system level. In the case of protozoans, acellular body performs all biological activities. Acellular, they are not having a perfect cell. Absence of cell, that is known as acellular body performs all biological activities. When coming to the next level, that is cellular level, as we discussed, in sponges, cells are arranged as loose cell aggregates and division of labor occurs among cells. Here tissues are absent. When coming to the next level, tissue level, in coelentrates and ctenophores, cells performing the same function are arranged into tissues. And the next level, organ level, in Platyhelminthes and other higher phyla, tissues are grouped together to form organs. And the latest or the highest level, that is organ system level, in higher animals, organs further organized to form organ systems. For example, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Chordate. So I think from the basis of classification, the first point we discussed regarding level of organization is clear for you, from Porifera to Chordates. Now the second point regarding basis of classification, that is symmetry. Animals can be categorized on the basis of their symmetry. I think you know what is symmetry, because in maths also you are learning about symmetry and all there. So when we discussing regarding sponges, actually sponges are mostly asymmetrical. And what does the word means? What is asymmetrical means? That is, any plane that passes through the center does not divide them into equal halves. So we can call it as asymmetrical. So once again, we can have revision of the same. We can define the same. Sponges are asymmetrical. What does it mean? It means that any plane that passes through the center does not divide them into equal halves. So we can call it as asymmetrical. So asymmetrical example, which one? Sponges. Why they are known as asymmetrical? Because we cannot divide the organism into two equal halves through any plane passing through the center. Now the next is coming. When any plane passing through the central axis of the body divides the organism into two identical halves, two equal halves, it is called radial symmetry. Once again, see the point. When any plane passing through the central axis of the body divides the organism into two identical halves, two equal halves, it is called radial symmetry. Examples: coelenterate, ctenophores and echinoderms have this kind of body plan. Which kind of body plan they are having? They are having a symmetry of radial. That means any plane passing through the central axis of the body can divide the organism into two identical halves. So example, once again you have to remember which are the examples in the case of radial symmetry: coelenterates, ctenophores and echinoderms. Sponges with symmetry, they are not having any symmetry, so they are known as asymmetrical. And the second radial symmetry. Now one more is coming, that is bilateral symmetry. Animals like annelids, arthropods, etc., where the body can be divided into identical left and right halves in only one plane, exhibit bilateral symmetry. Here we have to understand the difference between radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. In the case of radial symmetry, once again you see the definition. There we discussed that any plane passing through the central axis of the body divides the organism into two identical halves. We can call it as radial symmetry. But in the case of bilateral, the condition you have to remember that in the case of animals like annelids, arthropods, etc., where the body can be divided into identical left and right halves only in one plane, that exhibit bilateral symmetry. Through any plane we cannot cut the organism into two identical halves in the case of bilateral, but in the radial symmetry it is possible. So here we have to understand the difference between asymmetrical, radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. For example, if symmetry itself is asking us a question of 3 marks, you have to define all the things in a proper way there. So you have to understand the example, you have to understand the definition. So once again, we can have a quick revision of the same. The point, that is symmetry. So first one is asymmetry. When any plane that passes through the center does not divide the body of animals into two equal halves. Example, most of the sponges are asymmetrical. Second, radial symmetry. When any plane, there you have to give more focus. When any plane passing through the central axis of the body divide the animal into two identical or equal halves. Example, coelenterate, ctenophores and echinoderms. Echinoderms in that case also adult only is coming in radial symmetry. Bilateral symmetry. When the body can be divided into identical left and right halves in only one plane. Here you have to understand. When we are seeing the difference between radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry, there we saw that any plane, but here we are saying that only one plane that is passing through the central axis divide the organism into identical left and right halves. Example is Platyhelminthes to chordates. Platyhelminthes to chordates means whatever the names are coming of phylum, just to say that Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates. So everywhere we can see the symmetry, that is of bilateral. Figure you can see here. So there radial symmetry is shown. So you can see that any plane passing through the central axis divide the organism into identical halves. But in the case of bilateral symmetry, you can see that only one plane passing through the central axis divide the organism into identical left and right halves. So this is very important. What a figure is given, that you have to understand clearly. So here we have discussed about two bases of classification. One was that is of level of organization, and second we completed that is of symmetry. So next basis of classification, the point is diploblastic and triploblastic organization. So you have to understand the terminologies diploblastic and triploblastic. Animals in which the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers, that is an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm are called diploblastic animals. Example, coelenterate. Here embryonic layers we are seeing. This embryonic layer is also known as germinal layers. So germinal layers are mainly divided into three, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. But in the case of diploblastic animal, you have to understand that only two layers are present. That is an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm. In this case, mesoderm is absent. And the example is coelenterate. An undifferentiated layer, mesoglea, is present in between the ectoderm and the endoderm. So as I discussed with you, here the second layer or the middle layer, mesoderm, is absent. But in place of that, an undifferentiated layer is present, that is known as mesoglea. So here you have to understand that for 1 mark the question can be asked to define mesoglea. What is mesoglea? What is mesoglea? It's an undifferentiated layer present in between the ectoderm and endoderm. In the case of diploblastic organization is known as what? Mesoglea. And the example is coelenterate. So once again we have to revise the topic. Animals in which the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers, an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm, are called diploblastic animals. Example, coelenterate. An undifferentiated layer, mesoglea, is present in between the ectoderm and the endoderm. You can see the figure here. First figure is of diploblastic. Then you see the layers. So it is labeled here. This layer is ectoderm, the external layer, and the internal layer you can see that is endoderm, and in between an undifferentiated layer of red color which is labeled there, that is known as mesoglea. And the example is coming, coelenterate. And now the next is triploblastic organization. Those animals in which the developing embryo has a third germinal layer called mesoderm in between the ectoderm and endoderm are called triploblastic animals. So what are triploblastic animals? As we discussed in the case of diploblastic animals, there are only two layers present, that is known as external ectoderm and internal endoderm. And in the case of coelenterate, we have seen that there one undifferentiated layer is present in between the ectoderm and endoderm, that is known as mesoglea. And here in the case of triploblastic animals, we can see that there are well developed three layers. That is, the animals in which the developing embryo has a third germinal layer, that is mesoderm, in between the external ectoderm and internal endoderm, are called triploblastic animals. So they are from Platyhelminthes to Chordates. Then again you have to give the names of the phylum. Phylum Platyhelminthes, then coming phylum Aschelminthes, annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates. So from Platyhelminthes to Chordates, that is triploblastic level of organization. So let's revise germinal layers once again. Germinal layers also known as embryonic layers. So there are three embryonic layers or germinal layers. They are external ectoderm, middle mesoderm and internal endoderm. So one point you have to always remember that when an organism is developing, it's all tissues, organs, system, everything is developing from all these three layers only. That's why they are known as embryonic layers or germinal layers. So according to the arrangement of these, it is divided into two groups, that is diploblastic and triploblastic. Diploblastic animals. Animals in which the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers, ectoderm and endoderm, with an intervening undifferentiated mesoglea. Example, sponges, coelenterate and ctenophores. In the case of triploblastic, those animals in which the developing embryo has a third germinal layer, that is mesoderm, in between the ectoderm and endoderm. Examples, Platyhelminthes to Chordates. So here we have discussed about 3 points that is coming as basis of classification. First is level of organization. Second, we discussed about symmetry. And the third, that is germinal layer.